Kente. Thank you very much. I thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us for this special occasion. This morning, we are honoring the royalty of South African theatre, Gibson Kente, for his work in fighting injustice and giving voice to the marginalized through theatre. Mr. Kente, or Bra Gibbs as he was known, changed the face of theatre in his career of almost 5 decades. Bra Gibbs single-handedly created a genre called township music and earned the title of the father of South African township theatre. This genre was a popular form of theatre and a dominant means of expression for black performers during the apartheid years. Bra Gibbs worked with many prominent artists in their heydays. The list includes the keynote speaker of this lecture, Percy Mtwa. It is now time to introduce you to our host, Acting Vice Chancellor and Principal of MUT, Professor Marcus Ramogale.
Sanbonani, Molweni, good day. On behalf of Mangosuthu University of Technology, I wish to thank you for joining the MUT public lecture, which is being broadcast by One KZN and Microsoft Teams. The lecture will also be on YouTube. This is the second public lecture this year for MUT and is being conducted virtually. Previous lectures were hosted at the University Summer Hall. While the COVID-19 pandemic has caused a lot of distraction globally, we also need to look at some changes that have taken place. For example, there's been a true paradigm shift. Previously, we relied heavily on contact meetings and physical attendance of events. Today's event is an indication that we have decided to take advantage of opportunities brought by the pandemic and the unprecedented lockdown. Ironically, there's a feeling that we have accomplished something good even during these hard times. Indeed, we have not let a good crisis go to waste. Today, we will virtually reach many South Africans and the global community as we host this public lecture. The conceptualization of this public lecture was guided by the university's roadmap, which is MUT Strategy 2025. The strategy presents a shared vision of our university as a transforming, equitable, sustainable, and academically excellent university of technology, anchored in its communities. It is a commitment to be a fair and inclusive university, growing in academic stature as a leading university excelling in career-focused undergraduate teaching, generating world-class research in niche areas, preparing leaders for the global environment, and enhancing the well-being of our communities. Our strategic plan aims to build on our history. It articulates and incorporates the unique advantages we enjoy and acknowledges the challenges we face. It also outlines the strategic goals and initiatives we'll pursue to achieve our vision while adhering to our core values. This vision will be realized by building on a commonality of purpose, a shared sense of responsibility for the university's future, and profound respect for the communities we serve. We have therefore set out a clear vision for our university to spearhead a nation-building agenda and pursue social cohesion programs. Our main goals are excellence in teaching and learning, result-driven research, and community engagement. In attaining nation-building agenda, as well as the social cohesion program, we then conceptualize the preservation of local history and the curation of local art. This is a huge project that will end up as a center of knowledge. To this end, we have approved a framework for the preservation of our history and curation of local art. We have also formed a task team to put our plan into effect to ensure that we operationalize our plan of preserving local history and curating local art. The task team, which consists of professionals and academics from the relevant sectors, has already held its first meeting and endorsed this public lecture on Gibson Kente. Bragib, as Kente was known, changed the face of theater in his career of almost 5 decades. He is known as the father of South Africa's township theater for single-handedly creating a genre called the township musical. This genre was a popular form of theater and a dominant means of expression for black performers during the apartheid years. In a tribute to Bragib, published in the Guardian newspaper, Liz McGregor sums up Bragib's contribution as follows, and I quote, "He wrote and performed plays which reflected township life and trained and inspired hundreds of black actors and singers at a time when black creativity was viewed as a threat to the apartheid system and thus suppressed by the apartheid state. Using the limited resources available in townships, Kente created musicals and plays that reflected the fears, hopes, joys, and tribulations of black urban communities." End of quote. It is his commitment to fighting injustice, investing in fellow black performers, and using theater as a platform for voices which were relegated to the margins of society that inspire us today and made us decide to honor this towering giant of theater. Bragib made fighting injustices of the apartheid regime his calling, at a time when you could pay the ultimate price for standing up against such a brutal system. This stance against apartheid earned him a jail term in 1976 after the filming of his famous play, How Long? His Soweto home was firebombed in 1989, destroying his early scripts and records. We're very fortunate in that we have 3 people in our midst who are connected to Bragib in various ways. Our speaker, Mr. Percy Mtwa, was part of the cast of Bragib's Mama and the Load in 1979. This gave Mr. Mtwa a rare insight into Bragib's artistic work and personality. The musical performance by Nomalanga Hlubi, which will accompany this lecture, features guitarist Mr. Themba Mokoena. Mr. Mokoena performed as a guitarist in most of Kente's plays from 1972 onwards, with the exception of How Long? Mr. Mokoena is one of South Africa's finest guitarists, and it was his skills that caught the attention of Bragib in the first place. We also have Bragib's son, Mzwanile Ngoqo, in our presence, and I have no doubt that this lecture will feel like a reunion of sorts for the 3 in memory of this giant of theater. Thank you for joining us as we host this lecture, and we hope that you'll be enriched by the lecture that is going to be presented. Thank you and enjoy it.
Thank you, Professor Ramokgale, for giving us the context behind the lecture. Anyone who's familiar with Bragib's work will tell you that music is at the core of his work. Our next item is a musical performance by Nomalanga Hlubi and her guitarist, Themba Mokoena, who performed in many of Bragib's plays.
Malaika nakupenda malaika. Malaika. Nakupenda malaika. Ingekuwa madiwe, ingekuwa wanchugu, nashindwa na mani sina way. Ingekuwa malaika, nashindwa na mani sina way. Ingekuwa malaika. Malaika, nakupenda malaika. Malaika, nakupenda malaika. Ingekuwa madwe, ingekuwa wanchugu, nashindwa na mani we. Ingekuwa malaika, nashindwa na mani we. Ingekuwa malaika. Pesa zasumbua roho yangu, pesa zasumbua roho yangu. Mimi peke kijana wenzio, nashindwa na mani we. Ingekuwa malaika, nashindwa na mani we. Ingekuwa malaika. Jigege ikuwasa, jigege jigege ikuwasa, jigege mimi jigege kijana wenzio, nashindwa mani sina way. Ingekuwa malaika, 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 nakupenda malaika. Ingekuwa malaika, nakupenda malaika. Ingekuwa malaika.
Music is indeed food for the soul. Now that our souls have been fed, it's now time for the keynote address by Percy Mtwa. Mtwa is a multi-award-winning playwright, actor, and director. He made his professional theater debut as actor, singer, and dancer in Gibson Kente's Poor Mama and The Load in 1979. Mtwa co-wrote Woza Albert, wrote and directed the internationally acclaimed play Bopa, and wrote an African Renaissance poetry review titled The Song of the Smoke, to name a few. Mr. Mtwa, the floor is yours.
I want to thank the Mango City University of Technology for hosting this milestone initiative geared to commemorate the giant of township theatre, Bragip, known as Gibson Kente, of course. I also want to highlight the theme of this lecture, which is giving the voice to the marginalized, but most importantly, the role of theater, of the performing arts, so to speak, in fighting justice and uniting citizens. I think that's a very important theme. Of course, the university refers to it as a title, but I would prefer the word theme. It's a very important theme because basically we live in a world increasingly given to violence, where people take advantage of one another, dehumanize one another, where people do not even have feelings for another person, for their aspirations, pain. And I believe that to know what it's like to be human and to feel for another human being, of course, is the role of education and society. So now, when it comes to his music, acting, choreography, of course, that is where his uniqueness as an artist came to the fore. Now, there is something I've often said to artists, something that we're normally not conscious of. That is how the universe often plays, notes on the keyboards of our souls. Some high, some low, some sharp, some flat, some augmented, some diminished. And all we do as human beings is dance to the music. Given, of course, our power of choice and free will to choose how we dance. Now, this influence, some scientists, they call it celestial influence. This influence is all around us. And at points, our people, there's what we call African indigenous knowledge system. That was a coherent body of knowledge, a knowledge of systems that our people, that was peculiar only to our people. No other parts of the world knew about many things that Africans knew. And even history, when it says Africa is the cradle of world civilization, it is because Africa was provided by this coherent body of knowledge systems, the power to be able to civilize the world. And it is important because that's what we always complain about. These indigenous knowledge systems were systematically targeted by colonial and even Bantu education systems, for suppression. They've been suppressed. Even now they are being suppressed, subtly. So this is the knowledge that we're supposed to bring back, basically. In 1932, we saw theater, most particularly, beginning to have an impetus. There was the formation of the Bantu Drama Society by Herbert Dlomo. I don't know if you know that person. Herbert Dlomo, together with his colleagues, they formed this dramatic society with the views, of course, with the aims of uplifting the standard of theater in the townships, helping aspiring black playwrights and directors, And what I observed also while the Drama Society was born is that two other renowned white artists in the same year, Barney Simon and Arthur Fugard, were also born. A strange thing that happened. These three people, they are born the same year: Gibson Kente, Arthur Fugard, Barney Simon. And all three of them, they grow to be household names in the country. But whilst it being so, there is a serious conflict between them of cultural hegemony. Cultural hegemony is when another culture believes it's superior to another. So Oprah was a person who fought, fought seriously against that. That is why he wanted to be an independent entrepreneur, commercial in the township for the people. He was a very compassionate person. He always talked about the people. He cared about the people. You never move him from that. But the people, everything, the first thing begins with the people. That's why at some stage, I think it was, I believe, one of his plays, he closed it after about 7 months because he said, no, it's because it was too intellectual and it was performing only for educated blacks, and I don't like that. What about the ordinary people in the township? So he closed it down, even though on the other side, it was being appreciated by intellectuals, who would come and fill up their house, and said he felt he was missing out on the people that he did it for. So he was that type of a person. What is it that we learn, therefore, from the legacy of Prakip? As an artist, it's important that you stay healthy most of the time, and Gibson Kente was a health fanatic. He was healthy. It would be very rare that you hear that Prakip is sick and is in hospital. And I think the only time he got sick, it was when he was affected by HIV, which finally took his life. But Prakip had always been a healthy person. Sometimes you'd be drinking tea without sugar, and in those days it was unthinkable for us to even do that. You drink it with some flowers, which we don't even know where he got them from. He was a health fanatic, and he always encouraged us as well to eat well, so that we're able to do what he asked us to do very well. Because once your body is healthy, your mind becomes healthy. And your performances become even much healthier. Like in Woza Albert Withingema, would stop smoking, stop drinking. Actors today don't do that. After the show, the first thing, they're in the bar somewhere and they're having some drinks. Yes. And what happens tomorrow when they return to the show suffers at a rate that they don't even feel or they don't even see. But the director can always pick it up. So it's important that we keep ourselves, healthy and sober-minded. So Gibson Kente had, this problem sometimes even with the cast, and he would fight. Sometimes he would walk into the house unexpectedly when we are performing there, and you think you are giving your best because maybe you had a tip that Prakip is coming tonight, and you say you're giving your best, and then after the show, Prakip goes on stage and he tells the audience, "This is not my show." He embarrasses all of you. And then he calls you backstage, gives you notes, a few rehearsals, and etc. And he brings you back on stage and calls back some of the members of the audience to come and see what this is what his show was like, not what we were performing. Even if we were doing our best because we hear that he's here. But if you're not attending to those nuances, those little details that he taught you, it's gonna show. So he was that type of a person. He was a professional. And one thing I liked about him was that nobody taught him how to do that. He was driven by that consciousness that moved him, to pursue the knowledge of how to do all the things that he wanted to do. I think it is that legacy that we need to pick up from Prakip and impart, to the aspiring playwrights, directors, and producers, so that in the future we can be able to have more Gibson Kentes. It's not right that sometimes just one person comes along, and then when he's gone, nobody else will even endeavor to try and take his place. It means we did not learn anything from the person who passed away. I believe that Prakip, we can learn a lot from him. Thank God we are here, we're still here, to be able to, impart that to those aspiring actors and actresses who really, really want to make something out of their lives and something out of acting. There is a lot that can be learned from Brakip. And the only 4 epistemologies by which man seeks to understand the world. And each of these, science, philosophy, art, and history, all of them, their task is to discover and record patterns in human experience. So it becomes important that, that's why even in the Bible we have 4 gospels. That's why in life we have 4 elements. There is this, this number, this quadruple number that always, permeates to even other several levels. There's a microcosm over a microcosm of these 4. Even us, we human beings, we digest light through our perception. We digest food through nutrition. We digest air through our respiration, and we digest experience, through our reflection of the past, history, basically. So it's always these 4 elements, basically. So I said to myself, why the university should do that is because maybe the university has taken cognizance of this marriage also between science and art as 2 epistemologies that belong to the same family. I've always said to people that it's important that we understand science too, because science affects us as much as we affect it. Philosophy, we need to understand it affects us as much as we affect it. History, most particularly, it reveals to us the secrets of the past and affects us, Basically, these 4 elements are very, very much important. So I'm very grateful for the university for having taken this initiative, and most particularly that we are nearing what they call the dawn of the Aquarian age, the age of science. We're getting closer to that. Look at the advancement of scientific technologies and gadgets that are taking place. The momentum is very fast. We're even trying to catch up with it. We are moving towards that. I'm not surprised that I'll be sitting here at the University of Technology and talking about an artist. This attachment is beginning to come to the fore. Attachment between things, attachment between science, philosophy, art, and history. And I want to say thanks to the university for inviting me to this initiative.
Thank you, Mr. Mtwa, for that insightful look into Brakip's legacy. We are now moving to a different segment of the event, where I sit down for a conversation with Mzwandile Ngoko, Brakip's son, and Themba Mokoena, who performed as a guitarist in Brakip's plays. Thank you guys for making the time. I think this is a wonderful opportunity. So I think I'm going to start with you, Mzwa. Brakip, your father, and a legend to South Africa. How does that all make you feel? Were you aware that your father was as big as he was at the time?
Yeah, I've always been aware because, growing up, wherever you go, up to the present time, abantu babesolo bemnqomba utata got this, your dad indima yakhe ayidlalileyo, towards the industry, some of your exiles.
Yes.
I've even met a couple of them with, hey, your dad kept the home fires burning kwela cala, they really spurred us on. So yeah, I was fully aware all along this.
Thank you. Pratemp. Hey, Brakip was a colleague to you, possibly a friend, and were you aware then when you were playing with him that you were so instrumental in shaping the South African theatre landscape?
Na in fact uBrakip ula ngiqale khona ukuba aware ukuthi because uBrakip ungibonise na izinto eziningi nyana. uBrakip ukuba kwami kwaBrakip kwangisiza kakhulu lemisebenzi yakwanginceda kakhulu. Namanje ngisamhlonipha nje uBrakip.
Yeah.
Ngimthatha njengobaba.
Yeah. No, kumnandi ukuzinto enjalo ukuthi you were at different levels empilweni yakhe, but he was father to both of you. Yeah.
And to many people, that's why I say, ebantwini abaninzi, basekuhlaleni.
Yeah.
And it's just so overwhelming when I see some amagama ayichaza loo nto leyo.
So mina as a creative myself, I understand the art as a mechanism of talking about social issues. His role was obviously invaluable. What were some of his interests? Maybe just across the two of you. Yeah.
That guy was so active.
Sure.
He used to box. He used to play basketball, chess. He was a man of many interests, and he lived a very active life.
Piano.
That was his main passion, right?
Is it? Yeah. And what did he talk about in his theater pieces? Because today a lot of people are not aware of his work. They know that there's a Gibson Kente, but they're really not sure. They know that he's popular, but what were some of his talking points?
It was mostly highlighting, the black way, the township way of life. People's fears, hopes, and aspirations. Especially in fighting the apartheid system back then. But he was also about uplifting abantu kakhulu when asiswam.
Yeah.
Because my people, my people need to be emancipated.
Yeah.
That is truly one of amaqhawe ethu when asiswam who sacrificed ubomi bakhe. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah. So, Babu Temp.
Yeah.
Gibson Kente. How was it working with him as an artist?
Oh, for me, my sister, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
I must be fair to you. Rakib, sometimes we used to fight.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And he will chase me.
Yeah.
But as soon my vuli show enter, angeke ngangilandi noma ngabe kuthiwa ngiyini.
Yeah.
Mayivula enter show.
Yeah.
Ayikho show yakhe enter ngayidlala.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So work ethic yakhe, why strict? Would you say that he was strict?
No, in fact, nami benginezami ke ngizichaze.
Yeah.
But yena bengakho straight. Ubefuna nje into eqinile yonke into ihambe ngendlela.
He was a disciplinarian kakhulu.
Yeah.
Because a lot of artists ezisebenza naye till this day.
Yeah.
Utata needs still so much discipline in us,
Ngikuzwile Babu Tembu usho ukuthi you still respect him till today. Yeah. So that's quite important. Do you think he would be looking at a creative sector today, whether it's theater or music? What do you think he would be saying to Ama musicians and creatives across the South African landscape today? Because I'm sure you can see that things have changed.
Well, and when I saw him, he was a very, very cultural person, you know. And if you've noticed over the years, especially Mculo, we've drifted a lot to the Western type of sound.
Sure.
And he was not much about that, Mculo was diverse, but as you know, it's seen to see broad, and his music was very African based.
Sure. Sure. That's quite interesting because times, music changes with the times.
Evolves.
Isound ishintsha nange tempo ye society ngaleso sikhathi. Kusho ukuthi from a social perspective because music we respond to izinto ezenzakalayo. What do you think would be his biggest frustrations ngokwasekhaleni?
His biggest frustration would be that umculo wethu namhlanje ona message uvile what I said earlier on ebengumuntu othanda ukukhuthaza abantu to uplift his people, like I said, his favorite line endimkhumbula ngayo, my people this, my people that,
my people, yeah.
Yeah, that would be his biggest gripe. Umculo namhlanje awubakho abantu, people.
Yeah. That's quite interesting. So, I mean, today we are here at MUT, Mangosuthu University of Technology, and we're honoring the legacy that is Gibson Kente. How does that make you feel?
I feel happy.
Happy?
I'm happy.
Yeah?
Ngibonge nosisi ongilethela osephumile mina. Nangila ngaphandle. Because bengekho aware ukuthi kwenzekala.
Yeah.
Njengoba sengithola manje.
Yeah.
Kanti kuzobe kukhulunywa ngeqhawe lami ubrakip.
Ubra wakho.
Umkhulu kabi. Umkhulu kabi sisi.
Siswam,
Yeah?
he's dead right. He's
Yeah.
Ubab Themba was one of my dad's favorite musicians.
Is
Like
it?
he said early on,
Yeah.
whatever show he opens, whether Ubab Themba ulapha kokwabe Maritzburg
Yeah.
or driver bazawukhutshwa,
Yeah.
there is no show that abeyivula without Ubra Themba, you know.
Yeah.
And coming to your question, with me, I'm so overwhelmed, you know. Ndifuna ukubulela yonke team yeMangosuthu University of Technology for the enthusiasm and what I saw today. You guys blew me away, and okungijabulisa kakhulu nasisi yami. Ndiyachazeka when, especially your generation, you know,
Yeah.
acknowledges and honors amaqhawe namaqhawekazi
Yeah.
adlale indima towards our freedom.
Sure.
Yeah, that hits me big time.
Sure, I'm sure. So I think that leads me to my next question in terms of this idea of a legacy. You know, over time, there have been many creatives over Stlimba. The list is endless, where abantu, while they are alive, they are glorified. But once they pass, it's almost as if they are forgotten. What do you think? Obviously, the gap is there. I'm saying it's there. But what do you think could be done to actually just close it and honor those that have passed and the role that they played? Because our creatives are leaders, you know? Well, what do you think can be done better to try and close that gap?
I love that question because in the sense that, you know, it pains me a lot.
Yeah.
And we tell that once our heroes have fallen,
Yeah.
they become forgotten. You get what I'm saying? And like I said earlier on, especially when I see people of your generation doing that, it speaks volumes. But in terms of what can be done, that's a question in a million, because I think it needs many stakeholders, you know, to join hands, to get involved.
Yeah.
You understand, to preserve and document the culture yet.
So there's lots that can be done, and I think we need to acknowledge this initiative as one of those, as a reminder of those that have passed and their legacy. So really to appreciate you guys for making the time and just opening up your world and your experiences to this amazing giant and an amazing legacy. So thank you so much, and to the MUT team, it's quite amazing that
Big
they've
up to the
taken
MUT
this.
team.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
Pleasure.
I waited till I saw the sun. Don't know why I didn't come. Left you by the house of fun. Don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come. When I saw the break of day, wish that I could fly away. Instead of kneeling in the sand, catching teardrops in my hand, my heart is drenched in wine. You'll be on my mind forever. Out across the endless sea, I would die in ecstasy, but I'll be a bag of bones, driving down the road alone. My heart is drenched in wine. You'll be on my mind forever. Something else to make me run. Don't know why I didn't come. Feel as empty as a drum. Don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come. Don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come. Thank you.